I showed resilience, I thought. And then they just said, nah. I think the words were, we don't think you have what it takes to make it to the next Olympics.
Can we agree that leadership isn't based on title or position? I have created this podcast to talk to everyday people who lead in extraordinary ways in their everyday lives, both professionally and personally, in the hope that it will inspire everyday people like you and me to realize we are everyday leaders. Welcome to Everyday Leadership. On today's episode of Everyday Leadership, my guest shares his story, how he went from winning the British Indoor Championships in February to delivering parcels for Amazon in summer this year. Daniel Bramble, the British long jumper, shares his multiple setbacks and how a tweet he was not even going to send because of his pride ended up being the best thing he could do to redirect him back on track for Olympic glory. Let's get straight into it. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to, I'm going to call him the Olympic athlete, because that's what we're hoping for right now. That's what we're hoping for right now.
Goals. That's what the goals are. Yeah, we'll go with
Daniel Bramble, how you doing?
I'm good. Happy to be here.
See, a couple of weeks ago, I was on Twitter and I saw this tweet which said this year really went from road to Tokyo to at the end of the road, turn left, and talked about being unfunded, unsupported, and you have to adapt or be extinct. And that was the tweet from Daniel that I saw. And that tweet hit me differently, to be honest, especially in the year that we've had with people dealing with a lot of changes, COVID, and the impact that's had. To see an Olympic athlete going through that change and going from training for the Olympics and getting ready for what's going to 2021 now, to stacking boxes and doing deliveries for Amazon, which again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a massive change on your career path. So I guess a great place to start would be like, what actually inspired you to put that tweet out and put that message out? Because that's very humbling in a sense.
I don't know, man. I nearly didn't put it out either. It was one of them ones where I've been quiet on social media in terms of posting training videos, and a few people even asked me, they even came up to me and said like what are you doing? Like how are you surviving and stuff. So that was kind of just to let people know like what I've been doing. But yeah, there was a lot of pride that had to be put aside to that, man, because I feel like a lot of athletes are very proud people. So yeah, like to put it out there, I was like, this is gonna be this, like it could either go one way or the other. People would be like, oh, what are you doing that for? Or they'd be like, oh, okay, wow, he's adjusted. And luckily, yeah, it was the latter. So I'm very happy with that. Very happy with the response.
Were you surprised with the reaction, Jeremy?
Yeah, it was mad. Like I had to turn my phone off at one point because the notifications were just crazy. Yeah, like it's one silly. I just thought it was one silly tweet. I just letting people know, just like a by the way type thing. And to get the response like that, I was blown away completely.
Even when you actually even applied for the tweet came out and you actually applied for the job, how was that for you to make that decision to go into Black and to do what I need to do?
It was a hard one because, I mean, a lot of my friends saw this year as a extra year to get better. There was no competition, so they could just train all the way through and almost improve where they would be competing and kind of plateauing. And for me, I felt like it's almost taking a step backwards. I stopped training. I couldn't juggle both. I couldn't walk 12 kilometers a day delivering parcels and then train afterwards. So for me, it felt like a step backwards, but at the same time, it needed to be done. Like I said, I'm unfunded, unsupported, so I had to build an income from something because usually my main income is from competition. And there was no competitions this year, so I had to, like I said, adapt or be extinct.
And speaking about competition, the last competition before we actually went into lockdown, you won.
Yeah, British Indoor Champ.
So you were on a high.
Yeah,
things were looking up. You had the medal.
Yeah, and I remember saying in the the interviews afterwards, I was like, it's a few tweaks and then I'll jump far. I'll go a long way. And and then the year just went straight downhill from there. Almost jinxed it, I think.
So after looking at your career, something that I delved into, you missed out on the Rio Olympics by what, 1 centimeter?
Yeah, that was a rough year for me, boy. Went to the World Indoor Champs. First time at World Indoors, jumped 8 meters 14. I needed 8 meters 15 to make it to the Olympics. And then it was probably about 3-4 weeks before the British Champs, where I had to come top 2 to secure my place. I tore my adductor, which is basically the inside of my leg in a training session. So that was a rough time. And obviously at the time I was like, I'm optimistic. I'll be back 3 to 4 weeks. I'll be good to go. And I just wasn't. I pulled it again in a competition to try and show form. And that was my summer pretty much done. So that was a hard time, man. That was a hard summer. When
athletes tend to get injured, I've spoken to a couple people in the past on the podcast, it can either go one of two ways. Sometimes it can inspire them to move forward. Sometimes they call it quits, or there are some who actually keep on going, but they lose their love for the game. Which category were you in?
Boy, I lost. I think for a while I lost the love for the game a lot. But at the same time, the love was still there. So I was trying to fill the gap. I remember I was just going to every motive available, just trying to fill the gap of trying to get some sort of rush like I would get from competition. I was going, I went to festivals, I was going here, going there, just to try and block it out. But at the back of my mind, I always knew. And it was only in the winter season starting for 2017, that's when I kind of turned that hurt and turned that pain into like fire to fuel the fire for next year. And that's when the love came back. When I could finally start running again, start jumping again, that's when the love came back. It was a long road to that point. But I got there in the end, because I remember a couple months after I was injured and I injured myself again, I even told my mum, I was like, I'm quitting. Like, I can't do this. Because people don't realise, like, an Olympic cycle is 4 years. It's not just the build-up year before that. It's a whole 4 years. And for me to get that close, literally that close, a centimetre, and be denied of my dream, it hurt, man. It did hurt. It's not nice to go through. But luckily I could switch it around and fuel the fire for the next year.
What did your mum say to you when you told her you wanted to quit?
Of course, she was just like, don't be stupid. Like, you've been, literally, she used to put me in a baby bouncer as a kid. So I've always been jumping up and down even before I could walk. So she knew I didn't mean it, but she just knew at the same time I was hurting at the same time. And she'd almost seen the journey to that point, me getting that close, and then boom, injury. So, I mean, deep down she knew, but at the same time she was like, just, take a step back and look at it with like wise eyes at a later point. And luckily I did.
So you made your comeback in 2017. You're starting to feel good again, and then you lost your lottery funding that year. Did that feel like?
I'm reliving the story with you. Digging out these emotions that I forgot. Yeah. So that was a shaky year, man. I remember I went to European Indoors, and I'd only been training for 3 months, and I thought, I'm ready to go out on the European stage. And obviously I absolutely flopped. Like, I got 3 no jumps, didn't even make the final. But I was so eager to get back out there. But at the same time, I was scared, because I injured myself jumping, like doing what I love to. So to put myself out there in a competitive environment, have the adrenaline going, it was scary. And to me, I felt like I proved myself that year. And then British Athletics said, no, see you later, mate. So I was like, okay, that was another kickback. Like, I just felt like I'd proved myself, like I'd finally come back from a massive injury, the biggest injury of my career, and then I kind of proved myself. Obviously I wasn't super competitive distance wise, but I showed resilience, I thought. And and then they just said, nah, we don't. I think the words were, we don't think you have what it takes to make it to the next Olympics, something like that. I was just like, whoa, damn, okay, thanks.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and they'd been part of the journey to see me come back. So for them to say that after they've seen how I was to where I was, like at the end of 2017, I was like, okay, wow. Like, I was literally speechless. I was like, wow, okay, this is how it goes.
So that's I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't really understand when it comes to funding of athletes. Like, how does that work?
So, a lot of it depends on, I guess, age, and it's mainly just statistics. So, I first jumped on funding in 2013. I jumped 7 meters 91. I was a 22-year-old guy. Came second at the British Champs that year. And so they saw potential in that. So they put me on what is called podium potential funding, meaning I had potential to podium at major champs and so on. And so that's how I jumped on in the first place. And again, I proved myself in 2015. I jumped 8 meters 21, became the 5th furthest long jumper in British history. And that was a really good year for me. That's when I finally decided, maybe I'm not too bad at this long jump stuff. Like, maybe I don't have to, work in Sainsbury's or so, like, just get another job on the side. And that's when I actually started taking it seriously. So yeah, that's the process. They have a sit-down meeting end of season and then kind of review the stats of each athlete. And I guess they decide whether or not to put people on it from there.
And how important is that funding to an athlete? What difference does it make?
Do you know what? People say, you can be an athlete without funding, which you can. Obviously you can, because it happens a lot. But like free warm weather training trips, free physio, just having doctors on tap almost 24/7. It was really handy. I remember I tweaked. I rolled my ankle one year when I was on funding, and literally next day I was straight to St John's Wood, got a MRI straight away. And without funding, I would have been on that waiting list for ages. And it's just like little things like that you don't really realise and you don't have to pay for. But it's convenient. It allows you to focus on your goal without worrying too much about the financial side.
And then carrying through your career, you go into 2018, you jump that distance, everything's all good. In 2019, you moved, didn't you? You moved to a new coach.
Yeah. Moved coach, yeah. So, end of 2018, I think I jumped 8 meters 15. My furthest distance since 2016, if I remember rightly. And then, end of the year, I got kicked off from my kit contract. So I was like, fantastic. Of course, there's a trend happening here. And then, I decided to pick up sticks and move. Mainly because I was in London, like, I'm quite easily distracted. Like, if my friends say, let's go, I'm like, yeah, cool. Yeah, I've got training in the morning, but it's fine. So I decided to relocate to Loughborough, new coach, focus on the running side of things and kind of just learn again, basically. I felt in London, I was like a big fish in a small pond kind of thing. I felt like without sounding cocky, I felt like I was, a big fish in a small pond, basically. And I just needed to grow more. I felt like I was plateauing rather than going up. So decided to up sticks, move to Loughborough. There's nothing to do, no distractions, good coach. And so I thought, let me just get my head down and learn a few things.
But making that choice, because you were with your former coach for what, about 9 years?
Yeah.
So
Frank.
Can't have been easy at all just to decide, so you know what, I'm going to leave my friends, leave my family, leave what's familiar to me to actually chase my goal to a whole different level. Yeah,
and again, it was something I sat on for like a long time. Like, I was doubting myself, thinking, is this even a good idea? Like I've jumped far with this coach, but like, is moving going to help? Is it going to? But at the same time, I thought I'm not getting any younger. And the Olympics comes around every 4 years. So the next Olympics, I'm going to be like an old man. I'm trying to start a family by the next Olympics and stuff. So I thought, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. And that was kind of the thinking behind it. And athletics is a selfish sport anyway. You've got to think of yourself more than anyone else. And that's what made me decide it. I just thought, you know what, I've got to do it.
So now you start doing that in 2019, roll on 2020, COVID hits.
Mad.
You're going through that, and you launch a GoFundMe.
Yeah. And again, I nearly didn't do that because I don't like asking for help. Like, I'm a proud person. I don't like asking for help, man. I just thought there must be another way to do it. But I'd written letters to companies and just all that stuff, and just got straight airtime, just straight, like, or like the friendly response, like, "Oh, sorry, we don't have a sponsorship program," or blah blah blah. Like, so I just thought, let me set up this GoFundMe, see what happens. And yeah, again, that was something I didn't really want to do, but I thought, if I'm gonna make this thing work, I need to find something that allows me to get an income of some sort and focus on what I need to do. And yeah, that was it. That was the easiest option, I guess, at the time. So yeah, it was yeah. But like I said, I was proud. I was too proud. I didn't want to write. I wrote all that stuff down. I was like, do you know what? I think I've told the people too much. But at the same time, you need to. For them to believe in you, you need to. So I had to put that to the side.
Have you had any like mentors around you throughout your athletics journey to kind of help guide and shape, or you're going through all this thought process by yourself?
I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm kind of not, yeah, I'm proud and private at the same time. So most of the stuff I kind of did by myself. I just thought, let me, them deep thoughts, you just in bed, just thinking this hard and like, what do I really want to do and how am I going to do it? But at the same time, yeah, I had friends, I've got supportive friends, supportive family. Yeah, if it wasn't for my parents, I probably would have given up athletics in 2016 when I got injured. But yeah, they've seen the journey for the whole time, and they probably still saw potential that I didn't see in myself. And I think that really helped me kind of stay on track and kind of come back to doing what I love, kind of thing. Yeah, and again, supportive friends. Had a support. Yeah, all my coaches have been supportive along the way. So I think that really helps, talking to them, because we see coaches day to day, like pretty much 7 days a week. So they see stuff that you might not even see yourself. So having that like support system around me, I think really, really helped.
And what's the reality of being an athlete really like? I mean, we see athletes on TV winning medals. It all looks glitzy, glamorous.
Yeah.
What's the reality behind all of that?
Boy, I think athletes are some of the laziest people in the world, to be fair. Like, in terms of we train hard, but then when we get home, do nothing. Like, especially if we don't have any jobs on the side. Like, I feel like for me, I'll come home from training, I'll probably nap for a bit, cook food, nap, and then I'll be on the PlayStation. But but at the same time, recovery is very, very important in terms of training and training to a certain level. So we're lazy with purpose, I call it. We're not just lazy because we want to just chill all the time. We're lazy because we need to recover, we need to sleep well, we need to eat right, and all of that comes like with downtime.
How many hours a day are you training?
So it varies. So today, typically a couple hours a day, 2-3 hours a day. Twice a week I have a double session, so I'll do drills, my runs, and then I'll have an hour break, and then I'll gym after that. So that'll probably 5-6 hours in total, door to door.
Oh, wow. So during that period when you were doing deliveries, were you still training at that point in time, or you had to just completely lock that off completely?
Do you know? Yeah, when I first started, I really tried to. I thought I can do both. I've heard athletes do both. It's easy. But then I realized, like, when I first started the job, I was on nursery routes, so I only had like 50 parcels for the day, and even then that was taking me ages because I didn't know what I was doing. It was a steep learning curve there. But but just the walking and stuff. I remember because I was doing coaching sessions via Zoom as well, just trying to get any source of income I could, and I had to stop doing that. Yeah, because the days were just long, and it was during like summer when it started to get hot, when it was like 30 degrees. I'm walking around with these boxes around London, so yeah, it got really hard, and I couldn't train. By the time I got home, I was just done, like dead. That's when I realized, probably like 2-3 weeks in, that I can't train anymore, really.
And how have your other friends who are athletes, how they coped during this period?
Do you know what? I didn't really know. I knew athletes were trained and stuff, but it was only when I sent the tweet. I had 2 or 3 people saying they've been doing the same thing, and I didn't even realize. And it's one of those things, if I never tweeted it, like, people would have never realized. But yeah, his friends I thought were doing quite well. They've got kick contracts. They're training well. They're training hard. But then they're sending me photos of, like, I remember my friend, he just sent me a picture of a van dashboard, and he said, yeah, I'm doing the same thing as you. That's mad that you sent the tweet out, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, wow, like, this is not just a me problem. This is like this is a real life thing for like many athletes. So yeah, that was kind of eye-opening in that sense, because I had people reaching out that I thought were doing quite well, saying, yeah, this is my hustle as well. I've been doing this, or I've been doing caring jobs, or just, yeah. And it was strange at the time, because I was like, oh wow, like, I kind of not opened the floodgates, but you know what I mean? Like, I just set pace in that sense. People came up to me and said, yo, I appreciate what you've done because I've been doing the same thing. And so that was eye-opening to me.
So it's amazing the things that we go through and we think that it's just us. And then you do something and you start to realize that, right, it's other people doing the same thing as well. And all it takes is that one person to have that courage to be like, actually, this is me being open and transparent. And then
people are like, okay, wow. Like he's kind of put his ego to the side and said, look, like it's not all glitz and glam. Like this is the reality of it. And that's why I want to kind of show like the reality of not just unfunded athletes, but just athlete life in general. Like we've got to make sacrifices regardless, whether it be friends, family, or in my case, it was literally training. Literally the one thing I wanted to do. I had to say, nah, I need to get money because training doesn't make the world go around. Money does. So
I want to ask you, you mentioned ego a number of times and dealing with your ego. How over the years have you managed to be able to curb that ego and just be like, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm not going to go with my ego. I'm going to do the opposite, which I know is the right thing to do. Because dealing with your ego is not easy. So I want to get some practical tips from you because you've done it a number of times and you mentioned it throughout this interview.
I think it takes getting hurt to kind of you have to humble yourself. Like I always say, my 2016 was painting myself into a corner. Like I was so focused on the goal, I didn't really realize what was going on around me. I was just like, yes, I'm going to Olympics. I remember even made a Rio playlist on my Spotify, and I just thought, yes, this is my summer. And I think it took to get hurt in that way kind of just made me think, damn, right, I need to be more open to things. I need to kind of, shoot my shot in different ways, not just have tunnel vision on my goals kind of thing, and just be a bit more, open my vision a little bit more. And yeah, I mean, it's not a good process. I mean, it's almost like heartbreaking. It kind of makes you be a bit more cautious in what you're doing, and it makes you think harder about what you're doing. So I think that's what the key was, really, kind of getting that mad setback, kind of that makes you open to other suggestions, and it makes you want to adapt.
And why did you decide on the current path you're on right now? Because you didn't always start off doing this. You were into football, swimming, all different things when you were a lot younger. So what made you narrow down and focus on this particular area when it comes to long jump?
Like I said, I've always jumped around. Like even until I was 21, even I wanted to be a stuntman. I was doing free running like all the time. Instead of training, I'd be in central London, kind of flipping off stuff. So yeah, but it's only I've always done long jump as well. Like I started off as a sprinter, as most athletes do.
So what made you decide to go down the long jumper route? You were into taekwondo, you were into football, swimming, growing up. So why did you niche down on this?
I mean, when I started taekwondo, there was always a mat at the start of each session. I always used to jump really far into it. And I used to flip onto it and stuff. And it was only once my taekwondo teacher said, maybe you should try long jump. I was like, okay. And I kind of took it from there, really. But even when I went to the athletics track, I wanted to be a sprinter. But it's only when I started losing that sprint and I was like, wait, maybe I should actually start this long jump stuff. Stick to the plan A. And literally since then, that I never really looked back.
Was there anything else you were into growing up, or was it always like athletics and sports? Like that was always the core focus?
Do you know what? It's always like athletics has always been that underlying thing. I feel like for most kids growing up, or most boys anyway growing up, the underlying thing is football. But athletics was underneath that. Are
any of your other friends into athletics as well, or is it just you?
It's always just been me, actually. Yeah, my best mate is called Daniel as well, actually. He's always been a footballer, like always. Even now, he still plays football. At one point, I had a few friends into free running when I used to do free running as well. But yeah, that was only like a phase. That was almost like a fad almost. It kind of died out and then they just started doing gym and stuff. But yeah, it's always been just me into athletics, which is kind of weird because I didn't have any like friends when I used to go to the club. I used to have to make friends there. I could never really go with a friend and kind of, bounce off each other there. It's always just me going into a new group of new people and kind of just thriving from there.
Did you have any athletes you looked up to in your journey?
I mean, always like I said, when I started, I was wanted to be a sprinter. So always Linford Christie, I always looked up to him. Steve Backley as well, which is a weird one. He's a javelin thrower. I never really tried javelin, but just seeing him excel in what he does is like, just inspiring.
And because your friends obviously don't operate in your in your areas of expertise, does it make it harder for you to have conversations with them, or can you just be real, be yourself, and just share what's going on with you and your situation?
Yeah, I think it's one of them ones that I just be myself around them. So although they might not know what I mean when I say my leg shoot was rubbish, like I can explain that to them, and then they learn, and then they kind of adapt accordingly, kind of thing. So in that sense, yeah, like that, my friends were quite supportive in that sense. Like they want me to learn about what I'd done rather than just be like, "What? You jump in sand? What's that about?" Yeah, they were quite supportive, like in that sense.
And in terms of your family, you've talked about obviously your mum and your parents actually pushing you forward. What would you say are the top 3 lessons that you've learned from your parents that have helped you?
Probably mindset. I remember when I used to go to competitions, my parents would drive me all the way to like Bournemouth somewhere mad, and I'll come last. Or I'd be like the competition wouldn't even be done, but I'd be in like 8th place, and I'd just be sulking. And they'd just always tell me like, it's not over till it's done. Like, yeah, and I just always took that forwards, kind of thing. What else? Just use my energy, because I think as a kid I was a bit hyperactive in it, so I used to just run around the house and and they kind of directed my energy in a good way, and literally it's changed my life basically. But yeah, I mean, there's the top 2 main points. I think what else? Yeah, just keep going as well. Even in the last few years, I mean, like when I said I wanted to quit and stuff, they kind of just told me to keep going, and like, you've been doing this way too long, like you've come too far to kind of stop now. And so that's kept me going this whole time.
It drove you to Bournemouth?
Yeah, there's some mad, like, especially when I was younger, there was competitions really, really far away. And yeah, they should just drive it. And I never really, like, I kind of took it for granted at the time, because I was like, oh yes, this is a competition, I'm just going to this competition. But it's only now when I realise, like, when you're a kid, you don't really, you know it's far, but you don't know how far it's far. You're just bored in the car, aren't you? Like, you just don't really know. But it's only like, yeah, when I grew up, I was like, wow, they used to drive me here, like, just for me to jump in sand. That's, yeah. So I think they must have known I had talent before I even knew what I was doing. Like, so
at that point in time, even though you weren't signed up, you weren't part of the British program whatsoever, they just saw something in you, and they just kind of nurtured that, and they took you to wherever you need to go.
Yeah, I think they nurtured it quietly as well. I think they were never really like complimentary. I think they held me to high standards in the sense that they just said, okay, that was all right, kind of thing. But they obviously knew there was something, like I had a talent, but they never really said, yeah, that's amazing. Like, they weren't like proper complimentary parents. They were kind of just like, yeah, good. Like, that was all right, well done. And that was it. Like, but at the same time, that made me want to excel more, if that makes sense, because I wanted to try and impress them. So I think they knew what they were doing in that sense, because now I'm where I'm at, kind of thing. And it's like, okay, if I wasn't pushing, if I was kind of getting compliments every time I came 5th, I'd get complacent at 5th. But they pushed me to, be better.
Oh man, that's dope. Is there anything outside of athletics that you would love to do?
Oh, I mean, I've always drawn. Even when I was growing up, I've always drawn, and it's more like patterns and stuff. So I've always wanted to delve into the kind of clothing world and kind of just put some ideas out there and see how they come back, kind of thing. I think I'm quite creative in that sense. Well, it's like music as well. I always like music, always enjoy. I like the idea of making beats and making vibes. So I listen to music, I'm like, this is a vibe, like, and I just proper break it down in my head when I'm listening to a song. I listen to it like 2 or 3 times, just breaking down, listening to each bit. So I'd like to kind of, again, explore that avenue as well.
Is there a particular genre that you listen to when you're going into like competition mode?
Oh, when it's competition mode, it's just aggressive, man. If you see me in the warm-up area, man, I just look like I'm just ready to hurt someone. It's just grime, like old school, like Waka Flocka, just ignorant, nasty stuff, like just dirty beats, dirty lyrics, But on the flip side, that's not me all the time. Like I listen to like Soulection podcasts. I listen to like just chilled, just relaxed beats, like. But it's only when I want to get going, I can switch it up and just be like, right, I'm going to war. Like, that's what it feels like when I'm in a warm-up area. Like, I'm no one's friend. it's just that switch. Like I just switch into just almost like fight or flight mode kind of thing. I'm just ready.
Wow, how did you develop that? Because that would be, I'm just thinking that would be a great talent to have to switch up, like, right, it's game time, let's go, and then switch back up when it's all over.
It's so weird. I don't even know, man. It's just the environment. Like when you get into it, especially when you're like in final call and you're sitting down and there's 10 other guys that want to try and beat you. It's just, I don't know, it's just like hunt or be hunted. It's like some primal instinct just comes out. It's like, we're going to war. Like, you're not my friends anymore. Until the competition is done, you're not my friend. But it's funny that once I get out there and I'm in my flow, I kind of become a little bit more relaxed. So like, I'll clap for the other guys when they want to clap. Like, I'll compliment them if it was a good jump. I'll be like, yeah, that's good, man. But yeah, like warm-up area and final call, that's when I'm just like, don't speak to me. Like, I'm ready.
Who's your favourite artist then, like music-wise?
Off the track, I'd say probably Currency, like Freddie Gibbs, Playboy Carti to an extent. I like the beats more than the lyrics because half the time I can't really understand what he's saying. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Drake's up there. I mean, Future's up there. Who have I been listening to? Heady One. I listened to that album not too long ago. That's a good album. But it varies, man. It depends on my mood. The other day I was listening to Alexa Moore. She just makes really chilled beats, like just really like thought-provoking music. Like the lyrics are mad deep and stuff. There's so many. It's Erykah Badu, just everything. Like even yesterday I was listening to some like old school dubstep, like just randomly. So yeah,
very, very eclectic.
Yeah, like they're them old school like Benga days, Benga and Scream. Like,
I remember them.
Yeah, like that. I was listening to that yesterday. Like, it depends on my mood, honestly. Like, yeah, like, or sometimes it's just drum and bass. Sometimes I just think, I want to listen to some drum and bass. So it varies. But most of the time it's like hip hop and stuff. Like, just, hip hop, R&B, sometimes reggae. There's so many more. Sometimes I feel like I want to go carnival, so I just listen to some soca. Like it just varies.
You do your indoor carnival this year?
I didn't do indoor carnival, nah. But at the same time, I was working in it. So I remember because I worked in Notting Hill as well. So I was playing soca at my Ford Transit the whole time. But it was nice. It was good vibes down there. But yeah, I didn't want to do online carnival. It's just not the same, is it? Like,
hey, listen, I saw some videos online.
Just the name, I'm almost annoyed. Like, virtual wines. It's not the same. I can't. Nah, because carnival's a 3D experience, and it almost 4D, man. I love the smell of the jerk chicken being barbecued and just all the smells, like just the people, like just everything, like it's the whole vibe. It's a full body experience, man.
We'll come to a couple of questions just to finish off. As an athlete, just listen to you talking. You've talked about the physical, you've talked about the mental. Which of them is the most important, or is it balance?
Nah, it's all mental, man. It's all mental, and it's like whatever you put your mind to, you can do. Basically, I remember there was times during winter training where it'll be raining, it'll be like 3 degrees, and I'm running around this track. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I'll be at the end of the session like throwing up. I'm like, what am I doing this for? But it's in your brain that makes you want to think, okay, I'm doing it for a reason. Like, you could stop at any time. I could have stopped the session and said, oh, I'm hurting. But it's the mental that gets you through everything. And it's all mental, man. I'd say it's probably 70% mental, 30% physical, maybe 60-40, but whatever you put your mind to, you can do, man. Mental is what gets you through. I wouldn't be doing athletics now if it was for physical, because my body's broken so many times, just little niggles. But it's always my brain that said, look, you love this. Like, this is what you do. Like, you need to come back and, excel. You can't just leave it on the open page kind of thing.
Has there been any, books or anything that you've listened to during those dark, hard times which just kind of got you back on track? Or has it just been, using your past experience to push you forward again?
I I'll say it's past experiences, but music as well, man. I feel like music, there's some lyrics in some songs that you just resonate with sometimes. Just, I think like Nipsey Hussle or like Meek Mill, like they're always talking about just, obviously it's in their sense that they're coming up broke and selling drugs, and then they're now rappers and they're famous. But like I can relate to that and adapt it to my sense of, you know, I've been a club level athlete, or I've just been, but now I'm like on the world stage. I'm a world class athlete now, and like I've been down, I've been out, like I've been left out of competitions. I've been, you know, forgotten about, but I'm still striving. Yeah, just music mainly, but I listen to every now and then just to, you know, when I have to be in the mood for it. Like I listen to Alan Watts a lot. Like he's very philosophical about just life and just, you know, just the meaning of your purpose and just, yeah, stuff like that. So I mean, it's mainly music, but if I'm feeling smart, if my brain's ready for it, I'll listen to like Alan Watts and just motivational, just talks and just random stuff on YouTube. But it does help. It really does help because it kind of gives you like a little adrenaline rush. You're like, yeah, it makes you feel powerful, especially when in times where you're injured and stuff. Like it just really helps.
So you put a tweet out there, you set up a GoFundMe, you've raised your money, you got a wonderful birthday present from Gymshark.
100%, man. Yeah.
In fact, let me ask you, how did that feel like? Obviously, you've had a lot of people supporting you, a lot of people donating, which is fantastic, but they gave you almost 9K. So like,
I still can't believe it now. When it first happened, because I had my notifications on Twitter turned off because my phone was going mad from the last tweet. But I checked my GoFundMe randomly, and I saw Gymshark there. I thought, it's an advert. Like, why are they advertising Gymshark on my GoFundMe? Like, this is silly. Like, but it's only when I realised it's a donation and I clicked on it, I was like, okay. And then I saw the amount and I actually dropped my phone on the floor. I was like, there's no way. Like, I actually thought it said £88.75. I was like, wow, that's a lot. And then I realised it's like 8,000. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was just like, what is happening? And then I thought it was some sort of like someone had hacked it or something. So I went onto Twitter and then I saw the tweet saying, go check your GoFundMe. I was like, whoa, like this is mad. And it's always one of them things like, you see the stories on the internet of people, like, I don't know, for example, like a homeless man that can sing, and the next thing he's raised all this money and he's like on the world stage kind of thing. And it felt like that. And I never thought anything like that would happen to me. So yeah, it was very, very, very crazy. Very, like, I couldn't even believe it, man. I rang my mum straight away, like, Mum, I think I've just been given, I'm not sure, it might be a mistake, but I think I've been given $8,000. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not even sure, but yeah, it was crazy, man. And that was really like humbling to know that someone, like a stranger, people hadn't, like all the people in general, like they don't know me. And for them to donate, even like £10, £5, I was just like, wow, this is crazy. And then for that to happen, I was just like blown away, like completely. Like I'm not really an emotional guy, but that just made me just think. Like, I had a lump in my throat. I was just like, whoa, this is serious. Like, yeah, it was a good time, man.
Does it put any extra pressure on you then to succeed?
I wouldn't say pressure, but I mean, it just makes you want to perform more. And I won British champs in the last round, so I'm used to pressure, but it just makes you want to perform. It just makes me feel proud, even, I'd say. It just makes me feel like I have purpose now, and the fact that people believe in me gives me extra drive to want to show them that they didn't put in this money for nothing. So yeah, I don't think it put on pressure. I just feel like it's just more drive. It's just giving me more drive to be great.
So one thing obviously, the podcast talks a lot about leadership. And one thing that I loved about your story is that rawness, authenticity and transparency, which actually, even before the funding, influenced other people. Because I was reading all the different tweets and so many people were commenting on how that inspired them. Some they're talking about their journeys and their stories and all that kind of stuff. And that goes to show that something that even you, like you said, you weren't even going to put out, you did. And it had such a massive difference. And that's why even when you got the Gymshark funding, it just goes to show how much of you being real can make such a massive difference rather than just trying to pretend that everything's always okay. And that was absolutely amazing. For me, that's just like leadership right there.
Definitely. And I remember there was quite a few like younger athletes that messaged me saying, "Rah, like, I really rate you for what you've done. I never thought athletics was like this." And for you to kind of say that, it probably opened my eyes. And I just it wasn't just to let people know that what I'd been doing. It was more to let like the younger athletes know this is the reality of sport. Like, you see the Mo Farahs, you see the Jess Ennises on TV, you see the Usain Bolts, but there is another side to it as well. And I just kind of wanted to show that to everyone.
And I guess my last question would be, what would you want your legacy to be?
My legacy? Boy, that's a good question. Man, I never even thought of that. Just always never be too proud. Kind of just almost like shoot your shot. That's the main thing I'd say. Just don't be too proud to shoot your shot, because you never know what's going to come back. But legacy, boy, that's a big word right there. I couldn't actually tell you right now. I'm gonna have to. You know what? I actually don't know. I just like I said, shoot your shot. Just work hard and don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's a perfect way to end this podcast. Appreciate your time and thank you for coming on, Daniel. Thank you for sharing your story about your setbacks and actually encouraging people to know that it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to actually share what you're going through with other people, because by you doing that, you encourage other athletes, you encourage so many people. And like you said, you took a chance, you shot your shot, and now you're on your way to training towards Olympic glory, and we are rooting for you. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Everyday Leadership. Catch you soon. Don't forget, I have show notes on my website, everydayleadership.buzzsprout.com, so check that out. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and tell someone else. Appreciate your support. I'll see you next time. This is Everyday Leadership.
Well.